Good evening, everybody. It is gone 5:30, so I would like to welcome you to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 23rd of July 2026. As this council meeting is going to be live streamed, I will read out the following declaration. The Shire of Murray Ordinary Council meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Shire's website in accordance with Local Government Act 1995. Members of the public attending this meeting consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be captured on the recording and live streaming. Statements or decisions made at this meeting should not be relied or acted upon by an applicant or any other person until they have received written notification from the Shire of Murray. We'll move on to attendance. We have all of our councillors in attendance, although we do have President McClarty joining us via Teams as he is in Tasmania, I believe. Is that correct, President McClarty?
Yes, that's correct. I'm over here and it's quite fresh.
I can imagine it's quite cold because it's cold here. We also have apology of our CEO, Mr. Dean Unsworth, and Ms. Crystal Dorr will be acting CEO in his absence. We also have Mr. Martin Harrop acting as the Director of Infrastructure Services. Good. Moving on to leaves of absence, there are nil. Item 3, responses to previous public questions taken on notice is nil. Item 4, public question time. We do have 2 members of the public with questions that have been submitted. Is a Ms. Christy Simpson here? Would you like to step up to the microphone? Just be mindful to press the button and you can ask your question.
Good evening, President McClarty and councillors. My name's Christy Simpson and I reside in Nambalup. My first question is, the Nambalup Kennel Estate, specifically on the western side of the airfield, is currently zoned special use kennels. However, the 2016 Murray Nambalup Industrial Area District Structure Plan states that the estate is likely to be redeveloped for industrial purposes, and subsequent strategic planning maps published by both the Shire of Murray and Development WA consistently identify the estate for industrial use. In the context of the current Keralapp significant development proposal, the continued expansion of Peel Business Park and planning associated with Murrayfield Airfield, can Council clarify its current strategic planning for the Nambalup Kennel Estate, including how the existing zoning and businesses fit within that planning and which agency or agencies are responsible for leading that work?
I'm happy to answer that for you now. The long-term planning intent for the Nambalup Kennel Estate, as set out in the Western Australian Planning Commission's Nambalup Industrial Area District Structure Plan, is for the land to eventually form part of the developing Nambalup Industrial Area. This is, however, expected to be a long-term proposition given the constraints of smaller lot sizes, fragmented land ownership, the availability of other less constrained land, and current servicing limitations. Any changes to the existing zoning would normally be driven by the landowners, with the Shire and the WAPC's role limited to progressing the associated planning processes, such as rezoning and subdivision approvals, once proposed by the landowners. Until then, the special use kennel zoning remains in place and existing kennel-related businesses can continue to operate lawfully. You can ask your other question.
Okay. So my second question is, what advice would Council provide to existing business within the Nambalup Kennel Estate that are considering significant long-term capital investment while the future planning direction of the estate remains uncertain?
Thank you for your question. The existing special use kennels zoning remains in place and is not proposed to change unless the landowners as a group choose to pursue this. As outlined in response to question 1, that is expected to be a long-term proposition and driven by the landowners rather than the government.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. We also have a question from Ms. Kate Bowler, if she's here. She's not here. Okay, we'll take those questions on notice and they'll be provided in writing in the minutes of the next meeting. Moving on to number 5, petitions and approved deputations. They will be presented in the order that they were lodged. So the first one being from Mr. Stephen Elliott in relation to item 11.3. Can you please come forward?
Good evening. Do I need to do anything to speak to this, or is that about right? My name's Stephen Elliott. I'm a Director of Urban Resources and part owner, and I'm speaking here tonight in support of the Shire Office's recommendation in item 11.3 of tonight's agenda, the reconsideration of the Stage 6 extractive industry at Lot 521 Coria Road, Ravenswood. As you'll be aware, the Council decided to refuse this application in March. We've had some mediation with the council officers and agreed to a range of additional commitments that directly address the original reasons we think for the refusal. They include reduced operational impacts by removing all Saturday operations and committing to completing extraction by 30th of September 2027, significantly reducing the duration and the frequency of the impact on community. Enhanced or improved dust management. Extraction is only going to occur during the cooler, wetter months with 40-metre buffers to the northern boundary, installation of wind fencing and progressive stabilisation and rehabilitation of the disturbed areas to minimise dust impacts on the neighbouring properties and crops. This will involve a much enhanced sequential operation with us re-topsoiling the site and either stabilising it with glue-on and Dust-X on a regular basis, and where it's appropriate due to the seasons, reseeding it thoroughly, and then carrying out the supplementary pasture planting that's proposed over the site. The other issue that we hope can address is a robust complaints management system, which is an improvement on our current operation, which we hope will include direct management contacts with the surrounding residents to help ensure a rapid response timeframe, clear reporting to the Shire, and clear escalation pathways for residents if concerns arise. One of the things we'd really like to see happen is that the residents, if they have a complaint from truck movements or dust, have a direct line to myself and or my staff, so that we can deal with any complaints very, very promptly and quickly. Also, I want to just raise 3 additional points. The general importance of sand as a raw material in this area is probably generally known to people, but I operate across the whole of Perth with sand mining and sequential mining of sites being our main business. And sand, is, with environmental constraints and other planning issues, has become quite a difficult commodity to source in a geographical area that's close to the sites that require it. And that's combined with an intense housing demand, particularly in areas in Murray itself through Pinjarra Road there and Ravenswood, and also further north in Mundijong. And this site, even though the volumes aren't huge, it's a particularly high quality sand with high permeability that enables us to reduce the volume of sand per hectare of subdivision that it's used on, and by its geographical location, we're supplying subdivisions in Mundijong, and it's substantially reducing the cost of sand into those developments. And I wouldn't say it's holding the price of lots down, but we're doing our best to keep this at a manageable level. One of the main issues we've had, we believe, and there have been complaints with the council over time, has been our permit conditions with 7 a.m. start times only. We've had constant trouble with trucks wanting to arrive for work early, so they're coming into the site prior to the 7 a.m. Since just prior to and subsequent to the council's recent refusal, we put in a different operation with the trucks that are coming out of this site, and they source their first load of sand from one of my other sand quarries in the Baldivis area. they deliver to project sites, and then they're only coming back into Coria Road after that first delivery. And it pretty much means they're not able to get there prior to 7 a.m, even if they're early birds and want to start early. And our major complaints, I believe, have been that slightly early start of truck drivers arriving at 6:30 or 6:45 just to start work, really. They're getting to this site closer to 7:15, 7:30. So my staff still arrive for a 7 o'clock start, but they're not loading sand till well after 7 a.m. In terms of dust control, the stage 6 is the most north-eastern area of the site, so it's well away from the special rural style residence on Coria Road, and the two adjoining landowners is the market garden to the north and Peter to the south of us, who lives in the house there. They both have been supportive of this revised management and are giving, I believe, through the council, no objections to us mining this over the next 2 winters to extract the maximum amount of raw material from the site. We intend to work constructively. We're not out here to cause problems for residents. We run in an industry that's obviously not easy to manage, as particularly around other people. It's not a popular thing to be digging sand out of the ground and taking it anywhere in multiple trucks. But I believe that what we've put in place here is a reasonable outcome to satisfy the complaints from the local residents, and we're liaising very closely with the two potentially most seriously impacted landowners, which is the market garden and the adjoining landowner, and we'll be responding to any complaints quickly and promptly. I'd like to thank the council officers for their thorough and balanced assessment. They've been very helpful in getting us to improve our management structures, so that we hopefully get an approval tonight to, as per the council recommendation, to extract the balance of the sand from this site. I'm happy to take any questions that people may have over the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Did anyone have any questions about that deputation? Councillor Cashman.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Just a question on fielding complaints. You said you'll set up a direct line to yourself. Is there any intent to share that data with the Shire in terms of so we can capture if there are any complaints logged? No, I probably wasn't clear. We may not be able to get the residents to deal with this directly. Some people just feel uncomfortable with that interaction, and it will invariably go back through the Shire and come back to us. If we do receive complaints, we've got a proper complaints register, and we would field those back to the Shire pretty openly. And I think you can ask your Shire officers when we have had complaints. We've dealt with them very quickly and promptly. The issue arises if they come up through the bureaucracy of the Shires. It sometimes takes 2 or 3 days to get back to us. If it was a dust complaint or an early truck starting complaint, it's really too late. Someone rings me at 6:30 in the morning and says, your truck's here, I'll sort it out. But 3 days later, it's probably unlikely to happen. So that's more of a wish from the residents, because several of them have complained about the operations. We are quite open to receiving phone calls, and I hopefully can tell from tonight we're not monsters in that regard. Our aim is to operate proactively within the community. Thank you.
Did anyone have any further questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Our next deputation is from Ms. Miranda Bowman in relation to item 11.1.
Good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you in respect of local scheme amendment and the structure plan for Lot A39 Lake Road, North Dandalup. We would like to thank the Shire officers for their support of the proposed application and for recommending approval of the plan subject to modifications. We would also like to take this opportunity to object to some of the proposed modifications which we consider to be unwarranted at this stage of the planning process. We have not been given any opportunity to discuss these unexpected modifications with the Shire, and they were not alluded to in any of the submissions from agencies. So firstly, the proposed modification to Scheme Provision 2, which modifies the density from 1 hectare minimum lot size across the site to a minimum of 1 hectare north of the river and 2 hectares south of the river. The reason for this modification was to protect vegetation in the southernmost portion of the site. However, more than half of the area south of the river has almost no vegetation other than sparse trees, as is clearly evident in the aerials of the site. The area with vegetation was discussed in pre-lodgement meetings with the Shire, who were concerned over informal clearing by landowners occurring after the lots had sold. In response to this concern, an environmental management plan was proposed to accompany a subdivision application, which would reference updated flora assessments, set retention targets by conservation significance rather than relying on a uniform lot size, and also to include mechanisms for protection, such as conservation covenants registered on titles. Environmental management plans are not a standard requirement, and the proposal of one was acknowledged by the DBCA in their response to submissions. And as this will require endorsement by the Shire at subdivision stage, there is no risk of any lots being approved that may result in unacceptable clearing of high-value vegetation or habitat trees. The second modification we wish to object to is the imposition of a conservation lot prior to environmental assessments and federal referrals being completed. The Shire officers are concerned that having clusters of high-value vegetation across lot boundaries may result in clearing for fence lines and fire breaks. This again is exactly what can be determined and prevented as part of a subdivision application after being properly assessed in the environmental management plan. Enforcing a conservation lot now removes the ability to respond to further assessment, risking protection of low-value vegetation in one location while missing higher value vegetation in others. It is also prior to the federal environmental referrals, which risk inconsistency between the local and Commonwealth requirements, and a footprint that does not align with whatever conditions the Commonwealth ultimately imposes. The next modification we would like to object to is the restriction of livestock on the southern portion of the site due to soil types and remnant vegetation. This land is currently and has historically for some time been used for livestock. This has obviously resulted in the degradation of the majority of ground cover vegetation. The significant area of proposed foreshore reserve will be revegetated and restored. This area will be fenced and will be protected from any future degradation from livestock. The areas outside of the foreshore reserve, on the other hand, are prime rural residential land that is ideal for the keeping of livestock at a domestic scale. These areas are not going to be revegetated and do not require future protection from livestock because the habitat values are within the tree canopies, far from the ground. Additionally, regarding soil types, it is noted that the Shire has a local planning policy in place to manage livestock in rural residential areas. This local planning policy, as well as existing scheme provision 9 and 10, ensures this matter will be addressed at subsequent stages. Imposing a blanket restriction at structure plan stage is premature and unwarranted. The final proposed modification we wish to object to is the removal of the road connection from Goldmine Road across the foreshore reserve. Not only would this have bushfire and traffic implications for the wider site, the reason this removal is proposed is stated to be due to the road connection needing further analysis to calculate drainage capacity. The removal of the road connection is suggested to remove that concern. This again appears to be a knee-jerk reaction to a public submission, as this was not raised as an issue by the agencies. Is it not more appropriate to instead require the further analysis and calculations to ensure drainage is properly managed without any impact to neighbouring landowners. The proposed road connection through the Foreshore Reserve is in an ideal location that formalises an existing crossing point and impacts minimal vegetation. The water management report at subdivision stage is required to properly assess drainage capacity, and in any event will require the approval of the Shire. There is no reason for this restriction or any of the above restrictions to be applied at structure plan stage, in place of detailed design and assessment at the subdivision stage. To reiterate, the above modifications were not suggested by the relevant agencies, most of whom recommended further assessments, but appear to be proposed in response to public submissions, and in a way that prevents future planning work from being able to address these concerns appropriately. We are grateful for the Shire's input and collaboration throughout the pre-lodgement process, and would appreciate the opportunity to continue to work together to resolve any remaining concerns at subdivision stage. We would therefore appreciate if the Council could consider an alternative motion to remove the 5 modifications relating to the above matters. Alternatively, if the Council is not ready to support the removal of the modifications at this meeting, we request that the decision be deferred until the following Council meeting to allow time to discuss these matters with the Shire further. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms Bowler. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Willis?
Thank you for your time and thank you for coming. My apologies. Thank you for your time and thanks for giving us your understanding behind these matters. Just checking, have you had a chance to have a look at the changes that the officers recommendation based on what you have just submitted? For example, in regards to the maximum lot size south of the North Dandalup River, they have put in, in support of that in part. So there has been some sort of amendments to that. Have you had a chance to look at any of that?
No, I haven't, no. So, yeah, no, that would be great if
Okay, thank
we
you.
could see that first, yeah.
Does anyone else have any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're just going to backtrack a little bit if the council's happy. We do have Kate Bowler, who has public question time, just missed the window. She came in a little bit too late. So if it's okay with council, I'd like to backtrack to allow her the time to ask her public question as she arrived late. Everyone's okay with that? You can step forward, Ms Bowler.
Hi, Council. Hi, everyone. So I had a couple of questions, which a couple were actually answered by that. So I appreciate that. I probably shouldn't repeat them. But this was in regard to the lot subdivision. So I submitted a response, and there was a couple of responses to that I saw. So my first question was noting the response provided regarding the upgrade of Shands Road as part of the Dandalup Ranges development. Which portion of Shands Road and to what extent? So the specific response of part of my submission was about the gravel section that runs adjacent to the train line and connects to the North Dandalup Township, and utilising this as an alternative route to the township for the new and existing estates as an alternative to Lakes Road. Lakes Road lacks the pedestrian pathways and is, pretty well known as being unsafe for cyclists and active transport users. Simmons Road was noted in the response as the alternative to the gravel portion, but this still requires connection to the township via Lakes Road, which is not possible for pedestrians. At present, there's no plausible connection to the township from the estates without using Lakes Road. So that was the question in regards to Shands Road.
I can provide that answer to you now if you like.
Thanks.
The Shands Road section beside the railway line is not planned to be upgraded. The intended vehicular connection between Dandalup Ranges and the North Dandalup town site is via Simmons Road and Lakes Road. The subdivision approval only requires the developer to upgrade the section of Shands Road fronting the development itself. The Shire acknowledges the concerns raised regarding pedestrian and cyclist conditions on Lakes Road. Dandalup Ranges is a rural residential development, and dedicated pedestrian pathway links to nearby town sites are not typically provided for this development type, given the larger lot sizes, lower density and semi-rural character of these areas. Where residents generally rely on vehicle access, Lakes Road is classified as a secondary route under the state's long-term cycle network plan, so cycling infrastructure there will likely be provided in the longer term after the primary network is complete, subject to demand and funding. No pedestrian or cycling upgrades are currently proposed.
Okay.
Did you have a further question?
No, not really. I think it's more of a recommendation that it's with 5 kilometres in those estates. It's a reasonable distance to, I think, 10, 15 minutes. So noting the clause, but I mean, especially now that the Australian's coming back into play, you live 5 kilometres from a station. Lakes Road is a scary road to navigate as somebody not in a car. I think we're all aware of that. So, I mean, good to have the comment and question out there, noting all of the above. All good.
Thank you.
Perfect. I have one other question that I submitted, and I think that was queried in the response, which was just asking for more detail on the lots to the south of the Dandalup River. I noted the comments about sparse vegetation. I noted the other comments from DBCA about the report not being in the correct time of year to actually understand the nesting of the black cockatoos south of the Dandalup River and those clusters of significant trees. And then again, considering the fence lines. But I noted that prior to approval, there would have to be further studies. So I think that kind of disregards that question, to be honest. And I suppose when that comes back, the report, does that then go back out to public comment, or does it just come back to the council for the...
I'll refer that to our Director of Planning if I can.
Thanks.
So Council's recommendation goes to the WA Planning Commission as the determining authority. Re-advertising to provide additional opportunities for technical matters don't normally get re-advertised. However, once approved, the completed and approved structure plan will be on the Shire and WA Planning Commission websites.
Yeah, and that's the environmental management plan.
That would include that as well, yeah.
Perfect. Cool. I think that's my question. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll get back into the order of our agenda, which brings us to item 6, the confirmation of minutes. Item 6.1, the ordinary council meeting on the 18th of June. The recommendation is there. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Carter and Councillor Kirkham. Is anyone likely to ask any questions or need clarification on these at all? No? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.2, the Bushfire Advisory Committee meeting held on the 8th of July 2026. Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Kirkham? Councillor Willis? Is anyone wanting to speak to that at all? Any comments or questions? We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item 7, announcements by the presiding member. These will be attached as part of the minutes. Item 8, announcements by elected members. These will also be attached as part of the minutes. Item 9, acknowledgement of receipt of disclosure of interest. There are quite a few for this meeting. I will deal with them when we get to each item. Some of them councillors will be leaving the room, and they're just an impartiality interest, and they will read out their declaration and vote accordingly when we get to that part of the meeting. All right. Item 10, reception of minutes and recommendations of committees held since previous meeting of council. 10.1, the nomination of bushfire control officers for the 26-27 fire season. I do have a declaration of interest from President McClarty, as he is an appointed FCO with the Cool Up Brigade, and also from Councillor Kirkham, who is a permit issuing officer of the Cool Up Brigade. So can I please get President McClarty to read out his declaration first, please?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Rogers. With regards to item 10.1, nomination of bushfire control officers for the 2026-2027 fire season, I disclose that I have an impartiality interest due to my appointment as the fire control officer for the Cool Up Volunteer Bushfire Brigade. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will set aside this association and consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you, President McClarty. Councillor Kirkham, can you read out your declaration, please?
Yes, with regard to item 10.1, I disclose that I have an association with the matter being the appointment of fire control officers for the 26-27 season. This association is that I am named for appointment as fire control officer, permit issuing only for the Cool Up Volunteer Bushfire Brigade. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will set aside this association, consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkham. So that moves us into the recommendation. Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Cashman and Councillor Carter. Is anyone likely to be opposing the recommendation? Would you like to speak to the recommendation?
Thank you, Deputy President, and thanks to all the volunteers in the bushfire brigades in the Shire of Murray. I also thank the officers and the committee for their work here. In June, Council endorsed a volunteer leadership model on the basis that operational experience, trusted relationships and an established understanding of brigade capability are essential to effective bushfire management. The nomination for Chief Bushfire Control Officer before us reflects those qualities. Mr Wilson has more than 45 years of experience and service in volunteer bushfire brigades and has held senior roles including Captain, Training Officer, Fire Control Officer, Deputy Chief and Chief. He is accredited as a DFES Level 2 Incident Control Officer and has led responses to major incidents including the Waroona and Yarloop fires. He has contributed significantly to volunteer development through mentoring and training, and he has outlined a clear vision focused on strengthening cooperation between brigades, DFES, the Shire and Parks and Wildlife, whilst building future capability through structured training and development. I also acknowledge the Deputy Chief nominees, Justin Bennett, Jaron Vanlist and Brendan Webster. Each brings solid operational experience and established service within their brigades, supporting a cohesive and capable leadership team. The depth of experience and commitment aligns directly with the leadership model supported by our brigades and endorsed by Council. And on that basis, I support the appointment of Mr Wilson as Chief Bushfire Control Officer and the nominated deputies for the 26-27 season. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cashman. Councillor Carter, do you want to speak to the recommendation at all? Is anyone likely to be opposed to the recommendation? No, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to reports of Chief Executive Officer and officers. Item 11, Planning and Sustainability 11.1. Consideration of submissions, amendment number 336 to Local Planning Scheme number 4 and Structure Plan Lot A39 Lakes Road, North Dandalup.
Mrs Acting President, can I put forward an alternative motion, please?
You may, Councillor Carter. Would you like to move that recommendation?
I would just like to put forward an alternative motion of postponing this until the next council meeting on the basis of the information that we've heard both from Ms Miranda Bowman and from Kate regarding some things that they would like to get clarified and work forward with the Shire officers and together between now and then. So I would just like to put forward a motion to defer this item to the next meeting, please.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lee's happy to second that motion. Is anyone likely to be opposed to that deferral? All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 11.2, Proposed Agri-Tech Development, Lot 9503 Gull Road, Kerala. I would like to propose an alternate recommendation myself, and that is, as was passed out, I think it was emailed out through from the Director of Planning this afternoon, and that is that the recommendation will stay the same apart from point 1, which will now read, does not support the application for the agri-tech development on lot 9503 Gull Road, Kerala in its current form, as critical information is outstanding to enable a complete and proper planning assessment on the proposal. It is there. If I could have someone to second that. Councillor Lee, thank you. I would just like to make a comment on it, and essentially I think the officers in their original recommendation had captured where that information would be put through, but I think if you're putting through a recommendation for, well, they're seeking a proposal for a $400 million development, then they should be putting through the correct information at that time. It's not a decision for us to make. This is only for our comment. The WAPC will be making this decision, but in any case, I don't think we should be supporting it without that relevant information. Does anyone else like to speak before or against this alternate recommendation? Councillor Willis?
I'd like to speak for your alternative. I'd just like to say I agree with the alternative recommendation put forward by Deputy President Ange Rogers, because I do feel it is unwise to support an application where so much technical detail is missing. However, I would also like to add that the sustainable principles and the sustainable systems outlined in the application are quite exciting. And I would love to see such an innovative agri-tech project come to fruition in the Shire of Murray. So I really look forward to those technical details being supplied to the WA Planning Commission Department, who ultimately have the approval say, and hopefully see some greatness in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Willis. Is anyone else wishing to speak for the motion, against the motion? All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Moving on to item 11.3, the proposed extension to existing extractive industry lot 521 Carrara Road, Ravenswood. Councillor Willis has declared a proximity interest in this, so you'll be leaving the room at this time before we get into this item. All right, the recommendation is there. Do I have somebody to move the motion? Councillor Lee, Councillor Kirkham. Councillor Lee, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Yeah, I think the considerations that the applicant has made have been considerable, and hopefully that the new conditions that have been put forward will be able to work, and everybody will be happy with the outcome.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkham, did you have anything? Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Councillor Carter?
I just wanted to back up what Councillor Lee said, that the applicant has been asked to consider quite a few amendments to the original plan, which is something that we wanted when this first came up, and that seems to have occurred, and the current plan seems to be much better and workable for all involved.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. With that being said, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. That was approved unanimously, Councillor Willis, just for your information. Moving on to item 12, corporate governance. Item 12.1, the monthly financial report for June 2026. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lee, Councillor Carter to second. Is anyone wanting to make comment or ask any questions?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question. It wasn't clear to me, but it looks like we did end up financially with a surplus. Can you confirm that was somewhere in the region of 400,000?
That's a preliminary set of accounts. Obviously, the accounts haven't been finalised and won't be finalised till the 31st of August, but yes, that's what it's looking like.
Yep. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? No, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 12.2, payments from municipal and trust funds for June 2026. The recommendation is there. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Willis and Councillor Black to second. Councillor Willis, would you like to speak to this at all? No. Councillor Black? Does anyone else have any comments or questions? No. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 12.3, plan for the future council plan, 1st of July 2023 to the 30th of June 2033, the review. The recommendation is there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Carter, Councillor George. Councillor Carter, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
I had a good look through the document. It presents well and has a lot of easy to access and valuable information about the Shire in the past and going forward. It's important to have a plan to guide our direction going forward, and this plan seems to have all the information required. I know it'll be good to have some updated figures after the census this year, as most of the census figures are obviously from the last census back in 2021. So that'll be good to see in the future and see how things have changed.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Councillor George, would you wish to speak to it at all? Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Councillor Cashman?
Thank you. I had a couple of questions on the part of the council plan. There was, I think it was on page 441 of the appendices, there was a provision put in for the ERP system. I had some questions through you, Deputy President. What year was the current ERP system implemented at the Shire, and what was the cost to the Shire for implementation at that time?
I'll refer this to Ms Unsworth if I can, as you were a part of that process.
We went live with the payroll in 2018 and with the rest of the solution was July 2019.
Thank you. And what was the cost in dollars, please, for that implementation at the time?
I don't actually have that on me, but I can get back to you with that.
Thank you. The current ERP system, sorry.
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry.
Just from the costing side of things, that was our budget at $198,880 at the time.
Okay. And the current ERP system, thank you. The current ERP system cost per year, licensing and support. Is there an annual cost for that, please, for the current system?
That's the, sorry, I should have mentioned, that was the licensing cost at $198,000, just over, and the cost of implementation at the time was $409,000. Back what was put in 2018, 2019.
Thank you. And lastly, when will Council receive the independent consultant's findings and costings for the proposed ERP project, please?
So you're asking when we get the report, and so the outcome of the tender process will be put to Council for decision with all the costings and what will be put forward to council for decision.
Okay, sorry, it was my understanding that it was an independent consultant that was providing advice as to
The
the...
independent consultant is providing advice but doesn't inform on the actual tender and what the actual outcome will be.
Okay,
It will depend on the market response.
great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cashman. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? No? I will put that to... Oh, Councillor Carter, would you like your right of reply?
Yep. Look, I think it's important to keep the ERP in its current form in the council plan. I often have to listen to my wife complaining. She works in a totally different industry to local government, but have to listen to her whinge quite often about a system that she uses that where the system doesn't seem to talk amongst it correctly in between the different departments, and how frustrating that will be to her and to everybody that works with that system, which I've been informed is far in excess of any system that we've had or plan to possibly get. So I think that a good working ERP will be good for the community for a number of reasons. Firstly, to access information from the Shire. I also believe a new ERP will be good for the community, as staff will be able to do their job more expeditiously and therefore saving time, money and resources as well, which is only going to be a benefit for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. I will now put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Cashman against? Oh, sorry. President McClarty, you were in favour of that recommendation or against?
No, I'm in favour, thank you.
Thank you. You're just lagging slightly. Okay, item 12.4, the long-term financial plan 2026 to 2036. The recommendation is there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lee, Councillor Black to second. Councillor Lee, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
Oh, only to say we've put a lot of time into looking at the long-term financial plan, and our thanks to Tracy Unsworth and her staff in putting it together and making it make some sense for us all. I think the long-term financial plan puts the Shire in a good position going forward, and yeah, so it has my recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Black, did you have anything to add? Will anyone be opposing the recommendation? Councillor Cashman, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Deputy President. I also want to begin by thanking the Shire and its officers for the significant amount of work that has gone into preparing the long-term financial plan. It's a substantial document, and I do appreciate the effort that's been involved. I cannot accept the long-term financial plan. The plan applies a 4.95% rate increase in 2026-27, and I've already raised concerns with the proposed rate and the dollar increase in May. If I can't support that increase, then I cannot support a long-term financial plan that embeds it and carries that financial approach forward over the coming years. Before committing to higher rates, Council should be satisfied that all reasonable efficiencies, service reviews and reprioritisations have been explored. In my view, the long-term financial plan doesn't demonstrate that this work has been completed and incorporates a rate path that I do not support. On that basis, I'm opposing this long-term financial plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cashman. Would anyone else like to speak in favour of the recommendation? Councillor Carter?
I would just like to add that I do believe that all efforts have been made to streamline our processes as much as can be possible and for tightening the belt. I don't think that from the information that I've received that council staff can do any more with what they've got, and therefore, unfortunately, a rate increase is required at this stage. And I think that the debate, the long and difficult debate that we've had about this, has pushed through a long-term financial plan, which will ultimately be benefit for all the community in the Shire, and anything less would be a detriment to the community. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Is anyone else looking to speak against the motion? Anyone else to speak for the motion? Councillor Lee, would you like your right to reply? No, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Cashman against. That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 12.5, the 2026-2027 budget adoption. Now, before we move this, what we're going to do, because we do have some declared interests, is I believe we're going from item 1 through to item 1.12. That will be voted on by everybody, and then we'll start pulling people out and dealing with the rest as we go. So we'll try keep it as smoothly run as we can, but just bear with us. So in the interest of the budget from item 1 to 1.12, can I please have a mover for that part of the recommendation? Councillor Willis and Councillor George. Councillor Willis, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Deputy President. I support the recommendation and the rate rise of 4.95%. I'd like to add that budget decisions are never easy, and especially at a time when people are under such financial pressure. I find these decisions particularly difficult because I know the hardships that they may bring to some individual families. But I actually need to defer to my role as a council and through the training that I've received, where good financial management requires council to look forward and budget for future needs. We have a library that is well undersized already, with a huge population growth coming and already here. We have a rec centre and pool that was really well fought for by the community some years ago. That is needing refurbishing. I feel these are huge costs coming up. I feel the responsible option is for council to make decisions where they smooth modest rates, such as a 4.95%. And this allows money to be put aside. And with, at the great work of our officers, they can use some of this money to leverage against grants, thus saving the ratepayers in the long term. I'd feel it's really irresponsible to have no rate rise and thus leave the burden to a future Shire Council, who would then need to more than likely impose a massive rate increase in the future years. And we have seen that happen in some councils. Now, that might make me feel better right now because I don't have to make the hard decision, but I'm not able within myself to leave that decision for somebody else to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Willis. Councillor George, did you want to speak to the motion at all?
Further to what Councillor Willis mentioned about the workshops that we did have in regards to the budget, I feel that we did explore every avenue possible in how we could move forward as a council without a rate rise. However, if we, as a growing Shire, and obviously the people needing more assistance, moving forward, it would be detrimental to us if we didn't include a rate rise to be able to actually provide the service that we have been providing. I feel it would go backwards, and that would be something that wouldn't actually benefit our Shire at all.
Thank you, Councillor George. Is anyone looking to vote against the recommendation? Councillor Cashman, would you like to speak against the motion? No? Is anyone else wanting to speak in favour of the recommendation?
Councillor Rogers, if I might, please.
Yes.
Councillors, I fully understand the sentiment that's been expressed, and I also fully understand that any significant rate increase on our ratepayers at this time is going to be a burden. The unfortunate reality is is that the ratepayers have a cost of living crisis, but so have we as an organisation have a cost of operating crisis. We are considerably below the cumulative CPI increases since 2020. We have done the right thing as best as we can through what seems to be an endless cost of living crisis. We have a fiscal responsibility to ensure that the organisation delivers the service, the level of service our ratepayers desire. The administration has done a fantastic job in demonstrating how and where we will end up with many, many different percentage increases to the rates. The due diligence has been done. I believe it's been done by the administration, and therefore it's been done by us having been part of those workshops. And I believe not to endorse what's currently before us is going to make us fiscally irresponsible, and we will leave a massive burden either for our ratepayers through a degradation of service or to a future council who are not able to do what they need to do through irresponsible actions of prior councils. So please, I implore council to endorse this rate increase.
Thank you, President McLarty. Would anyone else like to speak either for or against the motion? I would like to speak for the motion. I am in favour of the 26-27 budget adoption, and while no submissions have been received from the public, I do acknowledge that there are people in our community that are feeling the ongoing effects of the cost of living pressures, but that also includes everybody that sits in this room. That includes all of the councillors that sit in this chamber. We are elected members, but we are also members of the community, and we also feel those pressures. The Shire of Murray as an organisation also feels those same cost increase pressures. No one is immune to it. We are all living the same experience. To give you a little peek behind the curtain, and when I say you, I mean the public, for those that are watching or those that are sitting in the gallery, Council discuss some part of either the long-term financial plan, the community plan, proposed projects at every briefing session that we have. And we have a briefing session every month, a whole entire day dedicated to briefing. We also have a briefing session at the end of every council meeting. And in the lead up to this budget adoption, we had 2 allocated briefing workshops that went for 4 hours each. Through those budget workshops, we have discussed and modelled multiple different rating scenarios for this year and how each of those affect the long-term financial plan and then in turn affect our community plan. All questions that council have asked have been answered, and all suggested rating scenarios were modelled. When asked where the council could reduce spending to potentially lower the rate, options were presented, and they included to reduce our staff numbers. We are already understaffed. We have positions that were vacated 2 years ago that still have not been filled. That work is then passed on to other members of staff. That is not sustainable. We are looking at a 4% population growth that is even higher in Austin Lakes. That is significant growth, and we need to be able to staff our organisation to be able to service our community. No councillor had suggested to reduce the staff numbers. The next thing that was proposed was to reduce the service level. No councillor suggested to reduce the service level that our community not only expects, but that they deserve. No one suggested that. The next thing that was suggested was to either defer or cancel out projects on our community plan. Some of these things on our community plan cannot be deferred or cancelled. They're the likes of an upgrade to our library. Our library is already undersized for the community numbers that we have now, let alone the expected growth that we're experiencing that's coming in the future. Our leisure centre needs to be upgraded. We've got projects like the South Yunderup car park that's been on the books and is well overdue, that needs to be done. These are projects that need to be done, and our community have told us they want it done. No councillor has suggested that any projects be deferred or cancelled. I believe that the proposed rate increase strikes a good balance between the continued level of service that our community deserves, while also being able to fulfil the projects in our community plan, and also be financially responsible, not just for this year, but for future years into our long-term financial plan. Councillor Willis, I'll give you the right to reply.
No, I absolutely appreciate what everybody has said, and thank you all for your time.
Okay, so we're putting to the vote, as we mentioned at the start, items from 1 through to 1.12. All those in favour of those items? And against? That's Cashman against, but that is carried. We will now move into item 1.13, which is for the rating concessions. Everyone stays for this one. As I said, bear with me, this is a bit of a juggle. So item 1.13, rating concessions, the recommendation is there if someone would like to move that portion. Councillor Carter. Councillor Lee. Would you like to speak to this at all, Councillor Carter? Councillor Lee, would you like to speak to this at all? Did anyone have any comments or questions?
Excuse me, Deputy President. I might be misunderstanding. Is this the area which I have a financial interest in?
No, you're not until item 12.5, so I'll call you out for that. And
thank you for that.
That's okay. Is anyone likely to be against this motion? No? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Where are we? Okay. Item 1.13. So, Councillor Willis, this is when you have financial interest, sorry. So you will have to leave the room while we vote on this item. Yeah. Sorry, 1.13B. Okay, the recommendation is there. Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Carter, a seconder. Councillor Kirkham. Is anyone wanting to speak to that? Councillor Carter, would you like to speak to that at all? Councillor Kirkham, does anyone else have any comments or questions? No? All right, we'll put it... Oh, sorry, Councillor Carter.
Councillor George, do you need to put in a interest?
That's exactly what I was just thinking. I didn't think about it as a proximity, but I am a board member for the Pinjarra Paceway.
You're not paid on that board, so you'd be an impartiality interest. Financial. Oh, you will have to vacate. Good catch.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Wouldn't councillors that are primary producers need to declare?
We've sectioned it all out to allow people to come back and come through. So that's why we're doing it piecemeal for this budget.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So with Councillor Willis and Councillor George out of the meeting due to financial interest, we will now put item 1.13B to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. All right. I can come back in. Yep. You're right. All right, we're moving into item number 1.13C. And for this, President McClarty has a financial interest, so he will be removed from the meeting at this time. Okay, he's gone. Can I have someone to move that recommendation? Councillor Lee and Councillor Carter. Councillor Lee, would you like to speak to that at all? No.
Only to say, I mean, we've supported Wheeler Airfield now for some years, and I think it's great that we continue to, because it provides a valuable service to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Carter, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, just to back up Councillor Lee there, the willingness that's occurred out at the Wheeler Airfield to support the Shire and the community throughout Western Australia, at least the southern half of Western Australia during the bushfire season, is amazing. And I think that being able to supply a concession to the rates for the support that they give to us and to the community is well justified.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Would anyone else like to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor Cashman, are you for or against? For? Yep.
Really just to back up what Councillor Carter and Councillor Lee had to say about the airfield. It's an imperative part of our community, provides a vital area for firefighting capabilities and other things in our area, and it's a great recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cashman. Did anyone else want to speak for or against the recommendation? All right, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, at this point in the meeting, President McLarty is going to stay out of the meeting and now ask Councillor Kirkham if he can also please step out of the meeting due to a financial interest. And we'll now move into item 1.13D. The recommendation is there. This is in relation to the bona fide primary producers. Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Willis and Councillor Black. Councillor Willis, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
Thank you. I'm in full support of this recommendation. I think our primary producers need as much support, not just in today's economic environment, but also in the hardships that working the land and the unsureties that come through nature from working the land. So I love that we can offer something to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Willis. Councillor Black, did you want to speak to the motion? Is anyone likely to be against the motion? Would anyone else like to speak for the motion? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. We're just waiting for President McLarty to come back online now that that item's been dealt with. You're back, President McLarty. So for Councillor Kirkham and President McLarty's information, that was passed unanimously. All right, moving into item 13, Recreation, Economic and Community Development, it is nil. Item 14, Infrastructure Services are also nil. Item 15, items for your information. 15.1, outstanding council resolutions for July 2026. They are attached in the appendices. Item 15.2, Council Plan 25-26 Quarterly Progress Report is also attached in the appendices. 15.3, the Delegated Development Application Decisions for June 2026 are also attached in the appendices. Moving on to item 16, business left over from a previous meeting is nil. Item 17, elected members' motion of which previous notice has been given is nil. 18, notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting. Don't have any motions. That is also nil. Item 19, new business of an urgent nature approved by the presiding or by decision of the meeting is nil. Item 20, meeting closed to the public for confidential business. There is none. So that moves us into item 21, being the closure of the meeting at 6:40 p.m. Thank you all for your attendance. President McClarty, thank you for taking the time to still join us online for this meeting, even though you're on holiday. It's very much appreciated. We hope it was easy enough for you to follow along.
No, technology didn't let us down tonight. It was very clear, succinct, and thank you for having me, and I hope everyone has a pleasant evening.
Thank you very much. All right, the meeting is now closed. Thank you, everybody.